Up until this point in history, roughly 108 billion people have ever lived and walked the world. Whenever I hear that statistic, I'm filled with a sense of dread. I think to myself, how many of those people's names are remembered by history? How many of those people have really made an impact? What could my life, my 70 years on earth, possibly mean in the grand scheme of things? In this week's parasha, we read about the counting of the Jews, and we see that the counting of the Jews famously has to be done through what's called the machatzit shekel. It can't be done by counting each person individually, but they have to rather give a representation of what they are. And Rashi famously explains that this is because of ayin hara, that when you single somebody out, bad things can happen to them. What does this mean? I think an explanation that makes sense for us today is that when you single somebody out of their context, of the tradition that they come from, of the people that they're a part of the history that made them who they are, when you single them out and say to them, what are you worth by yourself? What are you worth on your own? What are you worth as an individual? What answer can they give other than nothing? In the grand scheme of the 108 billion people that have ever lived, I'm not worth anything on my own. But yet, when put into context of where I come from, of the history of my people, of my traditions, of what project I'm a part of in humanity, all of a sudden, a person's life takes on immense worth because they're not standing alone against the vastness of the cosmos and the vastness of the people who've lived before them and will come after. Instead, what they become is part of the thread that is being woven into all of humanity. When we cease to view ourselves as just another individual, just another 70 years, but rather as a step in the chain, as somebody who's carrying the torch for the next generations, who's propagating a project over all of the history of humanity, then all of a sudden our lives take on the vastness of meaning. Our lives become part of the story of what it means to be human. Shabbat Shalom.